Hi, folks, and welcome to the Unlimited Trainworks podcast. I gotta remember, we're renaming stuff a little bit here. It's me, John. Rose is out. She got her vaccine, and it's kicking her ass out there. So go send Rose some kind words.
She's healing bad.
Yeah, she's the pathogerms are, the. When is the Rose sick? Right now. She'll be okay. It's all part of the process. But it's a. Go send her some nice words. Go tell her that she'll pull through, and will be immune to the terrors out there. And she'll be able to fight pathogerms alongside us next time.
She'll be far more powerful than us, basically. Because
we're both getting shots that need two. She got Johnson and Johnson.
She got the big one, so
she's done.
That's very strong. That's a lot to deal with. So
yeah. But I mean, once she's over it, she'll be done for however long. Mm-hmm. So yeah. But folks, yeah, it's me, John. LV, you're here.
Yep, it's me, LV.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just dive right into it because honestly, I'm really excited to talk about what we watched this month. We were tasked by none other than Boss Stones on the Patreon to watch the Patlabor movies, the 3 films. And that was very interesting. That was a very interesting watch. I will say real quick that I went a little further, and I also watched the OVA. Because it's there. I a while ago, it had to have been like a year or so ago, I bought the box set on Blu-ray, which has like pretty much all of the anime of Patlabor. Like there were a couple of live action movies as well, and like I think another series or something. And then recently, I think there was like one of those Japan I don't know if it was Japan Expo or just like another like animation expo that they do where like they get animators to make things, and I think that's like where Free came from, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think they did a new Patlabor thing there. But pretty much everything else that's animated for Patlabor is in this box set, and I got it because it was like, oh, it's a low price, and also it's going to go out of print, so you have to get it now. And so I was like, oh shit, okay, I'll buy it. I know people really love Patlabor, and I bought it, and then like a month later they were like, actually no, we got the rights back, so it's not going out of print. But it was still worth it. It was like $30 or something for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a beautiful film series, to support and to have. It's one of those films where it makes sense to have like a physical copy because it's just so well done. I think that's just kind of like, my opinion.
Totally. I mean, even if it was just the OVA and films, that would be worth the $30. But it also comes with, there was a whole like 47 episode anime, as well as like a sequel OVA that was another like so that is a lot of stuff.
That's a lot for that price. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Which I mean, it's still on sale. If you watched along with us and you want to own these movies and you maybe want to check out the anime and the other OVA, etc., I would definitely say to check that out. Like it is still, going on sale for around that price pretty consistently. So I would say just wait until there's like a Right Stuff sale and pick it up on there. But so we were tasked with that, and I also watched the OVA because there's 2 timelines. The first timeline is it's the OVA, and then the first movie, the third movie, and then the second movie. And then there's the second timeline, which is the show, and then the other OVA, which is called The New Files.
Oh,
so I'll probably I might watch that later. I don't know, but I watched the movie timeline, the original timeline, in order. So I watched it well, not fully in order because I actually watched the first movie and then I went, I kind of want to watch the OVA too. So I did first movie, OVA, third movie, second movie. So a little out of order, but whatever, it worked. And overall, I really, really loved everything I watched except for one part, which I think we're mostly in agreement on.
Uh-huh.
But I'll let you go for a bit, LV. Talk a little bit about what you liked about the Patlabor films that you watched.
Yeah, I this was something like I think I've known I would like it, but it's something I've never
Mm-hmm.
really got my way to like actually start watching and indulge in, right? So it's like a nice
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to finally do that, at least with the movies. And I wanted to watch the series first, but this is an interesting way to go. Like I wasn't aware of like, oh, there are actually different continuities, or there's like kind of a not necessarily specific, like you don't have to do it, but you know, like there is kind
Mm-hmm.
of like a specific suggested timeline to kind of watch these things because of like those different continuities in a way. But
Yeah.
again, it's not something that I think detracts from the experience, because I just watched the movies like one, two, three. You know, I didn't watch it in the order you did, including other things. Like I didn't watch the OVAs. Well, one of them. There are two of them, right? Um,
Right.
and yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I did not expect them to be what they are. But granted, you know, the director, at least of two of them, is Mamoru Oishi, who is known for doing films that are not necessarily straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went in thinking like, oh, is this like a buddy cop? I don't know. Like I thought it was like, is this gonna be like a comedy like cop thing? You know, like that's literally what my impression was initially. Like if you look at the images of this thing, right, you would kind of get that impression. Like oh,
Mm-hmm.
especially of the series, like the images of the series specifically, which kind of, from my understanding, they seem to have more of that focus because it does focus more on their like day to day lives of that particular unit. That the first movie starts off with. Uh, like it looks like, oh, what are the, I don't know, like I don't know why this is coming, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, something like that. Like it's like, oh, okay, like these group of cops, these group of mech pilots that are just, and they're shenanigans, and it's not what I expected at all. Like it actually is much better than that. Um, it kind of has elements of that, but it again, um, I think it takes that concept and elevates it in such a way where I'm like, there's commentary and specifically of how like how stuff like this is an issue. I think like we were
Mm-hmm.
we were concerned talking about this like out off the record, like is this a series that like idealizes cops, right? We weren't sure. And then we watched it and it totally subverts that. It actually is a very interesting commentary on like the issues of militarism, especially when, and then like like bureaucracy and whatnot. Like a very, I think a very interesting it's a very interesting package that comments on like all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Where we kind of have like in the first movie, and essentially what is the main recurring cast, I would say, like the main recurring group that appears, like group of characters that appear throughout this series, throughout this franchise, and like all the different continuities, where you have like these group of young people who are very excited in a sense to like, oh yeah, they're doing this thing, like again, they're just doing this thing where they're manning, like they have axes and are manning these like robots to deal with like essentially crimes or like issues around the city. But then the movies go into how like there's like these even darker like underbellies going on, like there's corruption, there's like all these other political issues, that these things that they're doing are not quite what they seem. And the first movie kind of just ends on this like very high note. It's like, oh yeah, like you kind of have this like incredible like action sequences, beautifully animated. Like all these movies are beautifully animated, well done, and very a lot of like interesting quiet moments where like you just have characters talking or like waxing
Mm-hmm.
philosophical. Which, so when you have that like juxtaposed with like the crazy like wilder, more frenetic, high octane fueled like action sequences with the mechs, with the robots, and act, like it really takes you in, like but yeah, the second movie follows along with those same characters, but half of it's actually not about them, which I thought was very interesting. But when it does get to them, it clearly shows like how much time has done it to them, and like their hardened experiences from doing all this stuff, like dealing with the trauma of it and like realizing like, yeah, this is this job is not like what it seems to be. Like there's like a lot of dark stuff going on that, like people aren't really proud of, if not revealing like a lot of holes in the system. They were basically just replaced with another set of people. I thought it was interesting that the movie was like about these characters, but it didn't really focus on them until the latter half. So that's kind of my take on the first two movies. Like it was just a very, it takes you in. It doesn't intentionally mislead you. I think it does a good job of like bringing you into this world of like these people who are like doing this whole like thing. Like, yeah, again, like we're people who are like trying to like deal with all these issues around the city, but then there's like all these other problems that predicate it. It's like it's not, again, it's like a whole thing of like, I think kind of like it captures the feeling of someone getting in a job for the first time and then they realize the job is like shitty. Like their enthusiasm and spirit for the job kind of like wings out. I think it captures that experience well with like this genre. So I think to quickly go over to my issues though with the third movie, right? It feels
right.
Sorry, the third movie is like a different director. It's not Mamoru Oshii. And it seems like it's something that was kind of forced into conception. I'm not aware of the history of it, but like it is very detached from the rest of from the other two. Yeah.
Yeah. From what I saw, it was based on like a spin-off manga, which is like really weird that it got such like a, like, like, I don't know if I'd say it's like a big thing, but like, yeah, the fact that they gave it like a whole movie it feels very strange. Like if this was an episode in the OVA or even in the series or something,
right,
it would make a lot more sense. But the fact that they made a whole movie about these just random guys that have like nothing to do about anything, and the crew like section 2 like they show up near the end and
near the end.
save the day, but that's it. They're just kind of there, and it has like nothing to do with anything else that the rest of the series is trying to talk about. It's so strange. It's just this weird side story that exists in the same universe, but it's the third Patlabor movie.
Yeah, it was basically like a detective story with like a little like weird sci-fi elements too, but like that cast like was kind of tacked on it. Then they didn't really have anything to do with what they were these two detectives were focusing on ultimately. Yeah, and you're right. It would make more sense in the context of like, oh, this could be like a side story in the series or pop up as like, oh yeah, here's another thing that's happening in the same world. But to market it as like being part of the series is pretty like misleading. Because again, it feels like the elements that define what Patlabor is, which is like, yeah, the mechs, the robots, and those characters, like it's very misleading. So yeah, it's weak in a sense of like, it's the weakest to me in a sense of like, yeah, if it wasn't associated with the name, it probably could have been like an interesting thing like separate from it. But the fact that it was, I think, weakens it. But at the same time, I wasn't really, I wasn't really like immersed in it compared to the other two. Quite honestly, it just felt very, I don't know. It didn't really say anything new, I would say. Like, what's the deal with it? I don't even remember much of it. Like, again, it was kind of like, oh, yeah, we're gonna, like, they were kind of like investigating, saying like, oh, the military's behind. I don't know. I felt like a very, it kind of felt like a very generic story that was commenting on something that was already explored in an interesting way in the prior two movies anyway. Yeah. But yeah, overall, yeah, I really hoped to at some point to like maybe explore the other things in this like bigger multimedia franchise. Like I'm aware too, there's like a live action movie. I'm curious as to what that is like.
I think there's multiple. There's a lot.
Yeah. So I think after this, at some point, yeah, I would like to like explore like the series, like the OVA. So yeah, like overall, yeah, it's this is like a beautiful like series of movies that I think one should check out, especially if you are a fan of Mamoru Oshii's work. Especially, if you like Ghost in the Shell, you would like this. Like especially the original Ghost in the Shell movies. Like this is something I think one would be down for.
Totally.
especially movie two. Like movie two really goes goes ham with like the philosophical stuff and
Mm-hmm.
being and taking you really out of the movie for a bit just to comment on things very explicitly. You know, it doesn't walk or it doesn't beat around the bush in terms of like saying like, oh yeah, like war is fucked up. You know, it doesn't like it's not vague about it. Like it's very clear
Mm-hmm.
as to like what it's saying about these different social issues.
Right. For me, you know, I think it definitely helps to watch the OVA
Yeah.
because obviously I don't know for sure. I feel like I see. I feel like something. If I really really like something as much as I liked watching most of this Patlabor stuff, uh, it's making me want to like look up interviews with Mamoru Oshii and just kind of see how he felt about like political things and his
Mm-hmm.
views on militarism and the police because I feel like watching the OVA and then just seeing that like lead into the first movie and then the second movie, it's very interesting to see. It almost feels like the evolution of his opinion
Mm-hmm.
in that like at the beginning it feels like the OVA in the first movie is like, well, you know, it's maybe possible for the police to be reasonable and for the system to work out, but it feels more like the military is this arm of the government that is like probably uncontrollable.
Mm-hmm.
Because the OVA actually like there's like one like 2 episode arc near the end of the OVA, and that's like almost a dry run of the second movie because
Mm-hmm.
it's also about the military trying to stage a coup.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously it's nowhere near as like a big bombastic event as it was in the second movie. Like that scene where there's just like helicopters flying around shooting shit up. Like that's horrifying. And
Yeah.
you know, like I just sat there and I just thought about like God, like any second, any military could just do that, and like they do that all over the world all
Mm-hmm.
the time, and like it's so horrifying to think about. And you know, like even in Japan, where they're supposed to be just a self defense force, you know, they're still perfectly capable of just like you
Right.
know attacking other countries or attacking their own countrymen. You know, it's so scary. And like Patlabor, the second movie was specifically made after Mamoru Oshii was I think the Japanese special defense force was they were involved in a military operation in Cambodia, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that was like specifically, you know, him just being against like that's not defending Japan, you know, that's actively going out there and doing something. So
Yeah, there was
um
also like some like references to like late Cold War things too, which was very
yeah.
interesting. It's like these are like incredible like in a weird way. Like if you're not that familiar with like the Japanese military history, like these are kind of like interesting time capsules that do comment on those things specifically.
Mhm.
And I agree with you in terms of like, yeah, I feel like watching the OVA series in conjunction with this helps a lot more, especially when it comes to, I guess, getting the humanistic side of these characters more, just understanding them more, because you kind of do just jump in. And I guess that was like one issue I had where I wish, like, oh, I wish, I wish I had more time to understand these characters more. And in a sense, you would kind of have more of that, like, these conflicting feelings of empathy
Mhm.
for them, especially as things go, escalate in the movies.
Yeah, like I would say the OVA is more focused on Noah, who's
Right.
the like redhead
Yeah.
pilot. It's more focused on her.
Mm-hmm.
She's like obsessed with her labor. You know, she calls it Alphonse. She
Yep.
loves him. And then I'd say the first movie's main character is like Shinohara, her
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
And then the second movie's main character is Captain Goto.
Yeah.
So it kind of jumps around there. And I mean, like I mean, I would say that it's mostly Goto, but then like Shinobu's also really important in the second movie. So it's like
Yeah.
both the captain, like it's about like both of the captains basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it definitely watching the OVA lets you like get a hold of the other characters more, like especially like the rest of the crew, because
Right.
they do introduce like the other characters. They have like episodes that are like about them, because like they have
Yeah.
like they have an episode where Ota, who's the like gung ho, like the guy who loves guns and
Yeah.
wants to just like
Yeah.
shoot shit. They have an episode that's really interesting, which again I feel like is like another like part of Oshi's politics, where like yeah, they're police, they're supposed to be able to control their weapons and all that, but I mean how like it's something that you have to keep in mind, where like obviously we're progressives who are living in America. We have a very very different, very understandably different, but very strong view on guns,
Yeah.
especially wielded by police officers in America. And in Japan, it might not be as like overwhelming, but of course it's still scary to think that there are people out there that are just like you don't know the kind of people that are out there handling a gun, even if they are a police officer, even in Japan.
Right.
So there's this like episode that is it's still like a fun mystery episode about ghosts, but it's still like about how much Goto doesn't like guns and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't trust that everyone's got guns, and he wants to teach them a lesson to not just run around shooting shit.
Right.
It's interesting, like I definitely feel like the OVA is a lot more fun. Like the first movie I would also say was fun, but it is trying to be a little bit more political. But the OVA is definitely like it's got way more moments of just like, oh, this is goofy, oh, this is just the characters having fun. And then the second movie is very serious, but I think it's earned, because it's like everyone in that movie is older. They've moved on from just being like rookies and like goofing off and all that, and they've kind of drifted away, and it's they still have moments where they're having fun and they still have their camaraderie, but it definitely like it's definitely the kind of thing where like if I was like a teenager when Patlabor came out, and then the second, and then I watched the first movie and had a blast, and then like I was an adult when the second movie came out, that would have definitely hit. That would have
Yeah.
hit really hard in like a really
Yeah.
good way. So absolutely, like yeah, I would say 100% like check out the OVA, the original OVA, and the first and second movie. The third movie, yeah, it's fucking nothing. It's like it's way too long.
It
I would say,
is.
yeah, like I mean, it's the exact same length as the second movie, and it's still. I was just like, this is too fucking long. Like, there's so many scenes where like nothing important is happening. People are
Right.
kind of talking in circles. You figure out the mystery of it, and like yeah, again, like I don't want to make it sound like I'm just going into Patlabor for gun shooty robots fight, because absolutely not. Like there's a little action in Patlabor too, but it's not that much, and it's mostly just like talking and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of
And
talking.
I thought it was fucking beautiful and like really really smart, but like the third movie is talking about nothing, and I don't even really think it's making a point. It's like making this weird kind of sort of point about like medical experimentation or some shit. I don't know. It was just like a kaiju movie, but I didn't even really think it had like a point to it, really. I don't know. It just kind of washed over me. I didn't care about it. It just kind of happened. It happened to me. The third Pat Labor movie
it
just happened to me.
it kind of it kind of had the issue too where I feel like it did a classic like especially when you have like these these main characters who are like, okay, so this happens a lot in like mystery thriller stuff. This is a recurring like cliche where you have like again, these hardened, like, detective guys, specifically guys, and then there's, like, a
Mhm.
woman involved in some capacity. And it's, like, very tragic, because there's always a whole thing. Well, this is what happens at the third movie. It's, like, it's a whole thing where, like, one of them, or, like, even both of them, kind of get a little personal with it. Like, one of them falls in love with a woman. It's kind of, like,
Mhm.
ambiguous as to what was going on there. But that was literally what was happening. It felt like a stretched out, like, very basic, like, mystery plot I would see in, like, many mystery, like, crime shows, where
Yeah.
a classic case of, like, okay, they're, like, applying to, that's what it felt like. It just felt like the issue of, like, the dynamic of, like, these people applying too much of their personal, like, emotions in the job, and the dangers of it. That's
Mhm.
what I felt like I was taking away from it, but it didn't really speak of anything else beyond that, because it ends in tragedy. It ends in a tragedy, and, like, they're, like, both, like, torn over, like, we could have saved this person, even though she did this horrible thing or was complicit in a horrible thing. But that was kind of it. It just felt like a classic, like, I don't know, I've seen the same story in many other forms. um it was very detached from, like, again, the bigger issues when commenting on war and then the military, compared to the other two movies, and, like, usually what the rest of the franchise is doing. It really, really, again, it's been repeated, but it feels very detached from what the rest of the series is focusing on.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty much how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely something that I want to look into more. The big long anime and the new files both weren't done by Oshii, so they're probably not going to be as high quality as the stuff that he did. But yeah, overall, I think pretty much anything that he touched is something that I could recommend to anybody. Absolutely. So Rose did write down her thoughts, and I could read them, or do you want to go ahead, LV? I don't mind.
I mean, you could go ahead. Oh, there's some
Okay.
typos in here. You
Oh,
can figure it
okay.
out.
Look,
She is
she's a little off
healing
the goop right
bad.
now.
Healing real
Yeah, she's
bad.
off the goop right now.
It's fine. No, I'm just saying you're probably better at, like,
Okay.
figuring out what she was trying to say in some parts.
Wow. Okay. Patlabor 1 and Patlabor 2 both demonstrate the inherent fallacy of the structure of policing. While it has reverence and interest in machinery, it is just as ready to condemn it given the propensity for its misuse. I will say, yeah, that is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Those, like, especially in the movies with their high budget, there are so many shots of just like, damn, look at this sick ass robot, look at this
Like
sick ass
gunport.
jet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's absolutely just like, look at this fucking cool tank, but also it could kill like
Like, no, yeah, and it proceeds on us. I think a lot about specifically the first movie's opening, where you're not sure what's going on, and you're thrown into this crazy, like, really thrilling sequence of, like, oh shit, what's happening? This is cool. And then, like, then that experience kind of turns sideways towards the end. Like, I thought that was very interesting. Like, you don't even, like, specifically the first movie's sequence, you don't even see people's faces. Like, you don't know what, like,
Yeah.
it's truly the effect of, like, okay, you don't know who's dying here, so you're very detached from, like, you're very detached from the experience of, like, oh my gosh, there are people being killed here, and, like, you can't identify that experience of, like, anguish and pain and, like, all these awful things, because you're just like, ooh, like, I don't know, that Gundam meme, or, like, ooh, shiny robot,
Yeah.
and then the arrow going over. That's literally what that is. Like, it's a very intentional, ironic effect. I think it was well done. Now that I think about it.
Right. Back to Rose here. Patlabor 2 is especially good, working to establish that what it means to be a good worker in the system is to not bend over and let bad things happen, to do some good things, but to stand up and be eliminated. Stand up and okay. Basically, Rose is just saying, like, it's the old saying where, like, a good cop will quit being a cop. Like, that's basically how it is. Like, there's not really a good way to work properly in that system if you're actively trying to fight against it, because
Right,
it's
like-
just it's made in the way to beat that down.
Yeah, like, there are just, unfortunately, many circumstances where changing things, quote unquote, changing things from inside is unfortunately not effective. And this is one of those things. Like you just, it's you
Right.
have to really, you have to really change those things from the core up. It's just rotten from the bottom. You can't
Right.
like changing things from the inside. Like and like hearing many of these stories, it's really disheartening. Like it's true because unfortunately, if you unfortunately been in that system way too long, you just kind of get sucked in it as well. That's like the danger of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To continue here, the main draw of the films to me is the fantastic framing of each scene, with amazing colors and environmental shots that are what made me fall in love with Ghost in the Shell when I was a kid. I really have nothing to say about the third film, and I feel like
Nothing positive to say about the third film.
yeah, I mean, probably not nothing really. It's just, and I feel like it was just amateurish aping with established names. Yeah, all right. I think the first two movies succeed not because of their depth of character, but because of the way each character is slid into the right spots to say the right thing in fun and inventive ways, which I felt the third movie lacked entirely. I mean, I wouldn't count out depth of character, but I kind of like, I understand why Boss Jones just told us to watch the three movies, but I do kind of think that, I mean, and it's not his fault. Obviously, I'm not gonna say oh, you should have done it, but definitely I would say if you're if you haven't watched yet, if you're listening to this and then gonna go watch it, definitely just do OVA movie 1, movie 2. That's all you have to do. But definitely watch the OVA because it gives so much like background and a lot of flavor to what happens in the first and second movie, because like especially the second movie, like that hits so hard when you have spent time with those characters. All right. So we did get some opinions here. If you want to send in opinions or questions, we'll do some questions later. But here's some Patlabor opinions at videogameshootchu.tumblr.com/ask. CenturyPunk says, I adore Patlabor, from the cast to the mecha designs to the surprisingly thoughtful politics about policing in Japan. It's a testament to its strengths that it has room for both fun Godzilla parodies and an incredible meditation on unjust peace and the just war in the second movie. Yeah, that conversation, that whole segment was just... that was the best part of the entire series. Like just hearing Goto talk to that one guy about like the difference between an unjust peace and a just war. Like so good.
And what was incredible about it wasn't even really showing anything. Like the voice acting was, but also I think what the soundtracks, I forgot to mention the soundtracks of these movies are really good. Like they just convey this. I don't know. They're both like very. I don't know. Like I try to think of the word. I don't know. They're both very adrenaline driven. Like pieces of music where it's in a weird way. Like you can put it in the background, like that pumps you. But at the same time, there's something unsettling about it. There's it does an interesting combination of those two things, and I feel like they make them. It makes it very versatile to apply to any situation, whether it be like in the action sequences or like literally moments like that where it's just talking, like very intense conversation. But yeah, I think it helps it a lot.
Totally. I'm not really interested in Patlabor without Mamoru Oshii, but the ones he worked on really do cement him as one of the great auteurs of the genre. Fantastic show, 10 out of 10. I am inclined to agree with you. But again, I do kind of want to at least try the other stuff. I mean, I have it, so why not? No, this is from Trixie. Excuse me. Little else needs to be said about the first two Patlabor movies, but I feel like the third movie really nails a deep and moody atmosphere that, despite ultimately being a kaiju movie without much focus on the kaiju, ends up making it stand out as its own uniquely captivating film. I didn't mind the focus on characters not from the first two movies. I feel like the Patlabor universe is flexible enough to have anyone be the focus in it, and despite mixed results, it ended up working well for me. I mean, that's valid. I'm not going to tell you that your opinion is wrong. I do agree. I do agree with Trixie a little bit here, where, like, again, I definitely feel like the Patlabor universe has the space to be flexible, to go into these different worlds. I do just wish it was just like an episode instead of a whole movie.
Yeah, again, I think the framing of it as like a whole movie right after the other two does it a disservice. And I think if it was even shorter, I think it would have been a stronger story. I agree with you. Like, there was just like a lot of moments where it's like, I'm not sure it needed to be this long, like nearly 2 hours.
Yeah. And last one here is from Gregory Zero, who says, the Patlabor movies are probably not the best place to start with the franchise, but personally the only thing worth watching from it. They're definitely of their time in both good and bad ways, but the amount of times I had to remind myself, oh right, this is Patlabor, surprised even me. If you like Mamoru Oshii, definitely check them out. Yep, again, yeah, you just gotta watch the OVA first. I guess that's it. Yeah, thanks so much for writing in. Now we can go on ahead and talk about a bunch of other stuff that we watched. Alvi, please feel free to just here. Let's see here. How about? I don't think I've heard you talk too much about Other Side Picnic. Do you want to go ahead on about that?
Yeah. Okay. That's the problem. I don't know where to go off on it because it kind of, again, the SCP to anime. It ends on a very weird note. Okay, so gosh, I don't know if Rose caught on this, but when she's on next time, hopefully she can figure this out. I don't know what was going on. So there's this weird I don't know, it just kind of ends. I don't know if it's going to have a continuation, but there's this whole thing throughout the series where there's like these two young women, and like there's this whole thing where like, oh yeah, there's like a missing girl. There's like a missing woman that is friends with one of them or is close with them. I don't know if she's like a former lover. It's very ambiguous as to what that relationship is. But she was someone special to her. And she again, like there's a whole thing where maybe she was lost in the, quote unquote other side. Like, the weird spooky realm that these two keep having their adventures in and have to deal with all sorts of problems. And they never resolve that. They don't resolve that. The episode felt like another, like one of the episodes with like the whole monster of the week thing. It's not literally a monster. They're like encountering problems, so to speak. But they just don't resolve that. They never find this person. They make a weird connection and allude in an episode prior. Or like, oh, one of the main characters, she looks like you. Or, like a weird reference to that as if like there's, like something more ulterior, like underneath the surface going on, but then they just don't wrap that up at all. What was strange about the series, and I expressed this to Rose about, like that, like every episode kind of felt this way, where the girls get thrown into some weird shit, like, oh fuck, there's like a weird monster SCP thing going on here, and then it just ends. Like they get like teleported back to reality. Or like, I don't know, some weird Deus Ex Machina thing happens, and that's that. And then now they're just chilling on the beach, going on a date. Sure, every episode has felt that way. Like I don't know, like, and people have been saying like, this is based on a light novel, and people have been saying like, oh yeah, this show isn't capturing the atmosphere of the light novels. Well, I don't know. Like, I think this has made me interested in like how the light novels are. But yeah, it's a very strange show. It is a strange show. It's about strange things. But yeah, like every episode starts off with a really creepy story, or like it builds up like all this tension about like what the hell is going on. Like but it just ends abruptly, and that's how the season 1 finale ended. It just felt like another episode, and then nothing really came out of it. So I don't know if there's like going to be a continuation of this series, but
oh god, not again.
But what was, yeah, right. But what was really goofy about the last couple of episodes is that, like, somewhere middle of the series that they ran into, like, the U.S. military. We were talking about this before with Rose. They ran into, like, the U.S. military, like, some unit of the U.S. military lost in, like, the other side realm. Again, the weird, like, barrier between reality. And they're just stuck there. For some reason. I don't know, I'm just laughing. But I'm laughing because, like, just the presentation of it is just really goofy. And it's like, why the U.S. military? It's like, and then, like, again, the whole thing where, like, some of them are trying to speak English. Like, the actors are trying so hard. I just feel so bad for them. And then, of course, they get, like, the best guy to, like, the guy who's most fluent in English, who has better, the most, and most proficient pronunciation. to be the guy like talking with the main characters who are ethnically Japanese. Um, and most of the time they're just speaking Japanese anyway. But I just loved how like whenever they're trying to throw in English, it's just the random like utter military guys who are just screaming in the background, going like, "Yeah," like very simple phrases because they can't do anything else. It's very uncomfortable for everyone involved. But literally, like for some reason, they went back to them. And then they finally saved them. They finally got them back out of reality. I don't know. It was very odd because the whole thing was like, the first time they encountered them, they just fucking abandoned them, which again, funny. That was pretty funny. They just left them in like the Twilight Zone essentially. But then like for some reason they went back to them and they got them out. I don't know. It was very strange. And that was the only story / creepy situation that they ran into where they revisited it. Every other episode, like they just explored that issue and then that's that. They left it at that. But yeah. I don't know. It's a very promising series for what the concept is. Like, like if you're into, I don't know, if you're like into creepypasta, like all that other stuff, like you could be interested in this, but like it seems like there's this consensus where this is like not the best presentation of what this series is supposed to be. So I do wonder if like reading the books is probably like a better way to immerse yourself in like the stuff they explore, because a lot of times it just feels silly or very, again, like I said, like I don't know, very abrupt, very. And the thing is, I would say, like in terms of the atmosphere building in the show, like the sound mixing is very good. Like it has a very good soundtrack too. Like as I was talking about, Patlabor having a very good soundtrack. I think it does a good job of like immersing you like into like whatever weird situation you're being thrown into. But then, yeah, they just end on a weird note. They just end up very abruptly, and it's like, what happened? And they just don't acknowledge it again. It's very strange. But yeah. It's something that makes me like, again, it's one of those things where like, I don't feel too strongly about this series, but maybe it's better in a different form, So that's that. That's that one, Underside Picnic to me. They didn't really resolve, like, I think what they were supposed to resolve ultimately in the end.
That is wild. 'Cause yeah, I mean, just the concept of like, just anything that's like the sort of Monster of the Week SCP sort of shit definitely does strike my interest, but it sounds like it's kind of like half baked in like a story sense. They're just kind of drifting around.
So. Yeah. Like the whole thing is like, oh, they're just doing something, and then they get randomly zapped into the whole situation, and it's like, oh shit, and it gets like really scary. They're like, how the hell do we get out of here, or how the hell do we tackle this issue? But then it just, like how they end is like all very weird. Like again, there's like too many examples where, I don't know, like I guess one example would be like, for instance, they're like dealing with a monster directly. They're just fighting it. Like that's the way to get rid of it. Like they're just fighting it. And then it just disappears. But they didn't really explain why. Why was it an issue early? I don't know. That's what I mean. Like it doesn't really give you answers, but maybe that's the point. But I don't know, to me it felt like from a narrative perspective, it just feels very random and not really well rationalized, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
You can do another one, because I don't have too much to talk about. Yeah.
I guess, like, in terms of, like, a series I really enjoyed this past season, Skate the Infinity is finished. It's very fun. Very... Okay. Very good. Yeah, it ended. It ended on a very high, insane note. It went total 180 shonen, where I don't know how to explain this, but yeah, the whole thing revolves around the fact that like these characters are going through like this underground like skate racing. So that's the thing. That's my problem. This is a show about skateboarding. It was less about tricks, but more about racing. I don't know. That kind of like bothered me. I don't know. But anyway, it was still like a fun, exciting show. And I was talking about this with someone else where I think they really tried to, and again, this is an original series. I think they were really trying to, I think it's obvious they were trying to capitalize on like the success of something like You're on Ice. Where like, oh yeah, we have all these like vibrant, like huge male cast of characters. They all love each other, maybe. Likely, very likely. We're not being ambiguous here. And we're intertwining their lives around like a sport. and we're gonna kind of exaggerate the nature of this war in some way. And like I think it works in that. I think they have like it has a really colorful cast of characters. Um, but I think where the series suffered was the story. Like there kind of wasn't a story. Like when it comes down to it, like it literally was like you have these two main the two main characters, like these high school kids who get intertwined in like, oh, it is underground skate tournament, and for some reason the main antagonist, he's just nuts. He's literally a Joker character, and then he's like, he's like intimidated by these two kids who are very talented. And that's that. I mean, like it didn't really have a lot of stakes to it. Like I'm like they could just leave, they could, I don't know. They felt like, again, it boils down to the fact like, oh yeah, like these people all love skating and that's what unites them. And dramatically the antagonist, he realizes he needs to stop being like a terrible person and a jerk to people because he realizes like, oh yeah, everyone here loves skateboarding like I do. There's no reason for me to be a bitch to people and be an awful person. They for some reason threw in like he's also the worst character, I think. Like at first glance he's like, oh okay, he's just a silly like goofy like antagonist, again literally a Joker character, but then they like went like full like actually like Jokerification Joker where I think I mentioned this before too, where he kind of has like a crazy like serious backstory where he was like abused. He's like, for some reason, all the women in his family are jerks. Like they're like he's from a rich family and they're trying to pressure him to do stuff he doesn't want to do. But he's like a grown ass man, so I don't know what's going on there. He doesn't have to do what they're doing, making him do. And yeah, he's just twisted for no reason. I don't know. He was kind of like the weakest character, and like it kind of was very off putting that he had this weird serious character with the rest of the show. It's like all these characters are just vibing and like they just love skateboarding. Really, the strength of the show was its characters. And again, its soundtrack. I think this season was very strong in soundtracks. I'm not gonna lie. Very, very good soundtrack. I actually, at first I was like, this show is a little difficult to recommend because like the first half of it purely was like driven by like, yes, the intensity and passion of skateboarding. If you like that stuff, you would love it. But then like middle half, they definitely went like full on pandering, I think, with like it kind of going like, here's pretty yaoi, I would say, like in Rose's words. This gets pretty yaoi in my best words. I don't know if that might be off-putting to some people, but the soundtrack is incredible. It really, I think, pulls off the whole like power ballads and ska like vibe, something you would associate with skateboarding and the skateboarding culture. It's very good. But yeah, overall, it's just a fun series, I think. But it definitely, I think, misses its mark where it kind of didn't really have a strong story. You really kind of want to watch it for the characters and like for its moments too, where like, oh wow, they actually like take their time to explain skateboarding and like all this other stuff. But it gets really wacky latter half, especially when like they want to resolve like the situation again because there isn't really a story. But yeah, again, a fun show. I think it was like a nice attempt here at an original series this past season. Yeah, and like it's nice to see like the fandom around it very happy. Like it's nice to see that. Like it's very positive energy, I think.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right, it's all good. So yeah, so Yuru camp is over for the time being.
The camping's over.
Yeah, their tiny little camp in the mountains is over. It was good. I enjoyed watching it. All the girls had such a great time camping. But definitely when I finished that, and I was just thinking about the high highs of being out there with your pals and doing something fun and celebrating each other and just having a great time, and then that low of it being over and you're all separated and you're just back at your place, and then that little perk back up when you sit back down and you realize, what, it'll happen again. And
yeah,
you start talking to them and you just it's it reminds me of like back in the day going to like conventions or just planning day trips together and just it's been a long time since I've done stuff like that, so it was definitely like it was a little sad thinking about that, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to the future and looking forward to getting that shot, basically.
Yeah, I agree. Like I definitely for some reason what stood out to me the most in that last episode was feeling sentimental about like hanging out with friends and especially large groups, which I don't know what's going to go on with that like in the future. But like the sequence following after towards that episode when Rin has to separate from the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the whole thing about like, oh yeah, like remember like text me when you get back home, and they all do that. Like that to me was like, I was like, yes, that's exactly what happens. That is especially as like a woman, like that is the perfect, like that was, I don't know, for some reason that stood out to me. So I was like, yes, that is that is a very accurate thing that I'm glad that they just put that out there. Like, yeah, this is what happened, like you checking in on each other after, and then like, yeah, I agree with you. The whole feeling of like, oh, now like when they go back to school and whatnot, but then they start talking to each other again. It's not like they're completely separate from each other after that. Like it's not like that didn't happen. They acknowledge that happened, but yeah, the whole after feeling is a very specific feeling that I think they conveyed really well. And then they, like I thought that was great. I just thought that was great. I don't know, just the whole concept of them commuting and driving back home and like, yeah, we got, and checking in on each other in the group chat was great.
Yeah, it was adorable. It was really nice.
And the capybara in the episode, it was very good. I'm glad that was there. They stopped by a capybara hot spring. You're like, yes, thank you. I too would be like, I wish to buy everything in the store, but I can't.
I would do just about anything to be able to pet a capybara right now.
God.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're very good creatures.
If there was a sign that said you can't hug the capybaras, I would be like, fuck you. I gotta hug this capybara right now.
I'll break the law, yes.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll get kicked out. I don't care.
Go into capybara jail.
I gotta do it. Yeah, I'll do it. Not too much to say about that, just because, it's your camp, but I will say they put out a poster for the movie, because I guess that's coming out next year, I think?
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
It looks like it's gonna be a time skip.
Oh, shoot. Wow.
They're older. Yeah, they look older. Oh. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle it. I'm going to be...
Camping reunion.
Oh, my God. They're going to be like... I don't know. I mean, no matter how much older they are, it's going to hit. Because it's like, if they're in, like, college, it's going to be like, oh, we've been apart a few years.
Yeah, or if they're like... maybe if it's the end of high school, it's like, oh, we're going to... Like, that's still sad.
But then if they're adults and they're like, oh, we have kids and a job.
And then the kids are going to camp with them. Or maybe not, I don't know. Wow.
God,
Camping.
Please. It's... those girls love camping.
They do. I hope they always camp.
I hope
it looks like they will. So that's a nice thing.
It's true. That's true. That's very true. All right. How's about you tell us a little bit about Higurashi?
Oh man. Okay. All right. How should I go about this without?
Carefully.
So yeah, we know what happened. They messed up with the marketing of the series. Where this is going to be a remake, and it's not. It outright is a sequel, or at least some sort of like continuation or a side story where you do need to have like knowledge, unfortunately, of the original series setup in some capacity to get it, for it to hit. Because otherwise, again, the first couple episodes, it starts off that way. But then it becomes really explicitly clear, like, no, there's some bullshit going on here where you kind of do need... you do need a knowledge of the past years to kind of get what's going on. So what's my best way to say this in a non-spoiler way? So, half of the series was useless because of that. Where it starts focusing on a character... outing him is probably like, oh, like, because the whole thing with Higurashi is like, with all these different storylines, there's always like a whole thing of like, okay, who's like people kind of go into series already with the detective hat on. It's like, okay, nice things are happening. No, like some horrible things are going to happen. People are going to murder each other. Like that's the whole expectation of Higurashi. And then people off the bat are like, okay, who's going to be the villain this time? Like basically the whole premise of Higurashi is like there's different continuities, but in some weird way, they all connect back to each other regardless. They're all like within basically a multiverse that's like canonically acknowledged. So which makes the idea that they're visual novels like kind of interesting. Like it's like a meta visual novel series in that way. But one of the things is that like they basically start unraveling that like in the latter half of the series, and they don't really. So that kind of like negates why we needed the first couple of episodes at all, and that's pretty weird because it entirely just focuses on this arc. But then it doesn't really acknowledge what happened in the first half of the series at all. And that's, I don't know, that's pretty weird. And yeah, now and like, it just starts acknowledging like, okay, yeah, this person is doing twisted things. And now we're kind of getting an idea of like what their motivations are. And then again, similar to my issue with Other Side Picnic, it just kind of ends. It ends on a cliffhanger. And from my understanding that there's going to be like a movie, and it's like, oh, okay. All right, I see what's going on here. This whole series was a lead up to a movie. And that kills me. Terrible. But I don't know, not to say that I didn't have like a bad experience with it per se, but there were definitely moments where like this didn't need to be the way it is. Like it really did not. Like this was like exhausting for everyone who wanted to enjoy and experience Higurashi, and also people me like who knows what this is up front. But it was very interesting, like, seeing people debate about, like, oh, this character, how could, I don't know, people were very upset that, that this character, who previously has not been, like, a villain in other iterations of Higurashi, has been made one, so people are very upset by that. But I think that's very interesting. I think it's a very interesting take on this character. But a lot of people were concerned that over, like, oh, how is this going to resolve when only a few episodes left, but as far as I know, there's going to be a movie after this. And why? I don't know why. I don't know why they did it this way. I think it's been my issue with, like, a lot of the weaker stuff in the past season. Like, you know, with Wonder Egg, for instance. Like, and which necessarily is not its fault. I mean, but though talking about Skate, for instance, like, the production setbacks due to the pandemic, etc. But I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's just been a lot. There's been a lot of strange like decisions here over like, okay, why did you make the decision with the series as it is, and then you're gonna delay like an actual finale like months on end. That's the same thing that I have in my issue with Yashahime, where I think they just totally crapped out on the story because they were confident that they were gonna get greenlit for another season because it's connected with Inuyasha, and that's very frustrating. But yeah, I just want to say that, yeah, if you want to get into Higurashi, unfortunately, it should not be this series that they put out. It was kind of like a shit show with that, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I was gonna say something, but I think it's a spoiler. About its like ties to another franchise, which I think is kind of cool in theory, but it's just like, I don't know, what are they? I guess I'll just say, do you think that it's like worthy of like this big crossover thing? Do you think them like kind of connecting worlds and connecting all this shit? Do you think it's like actually interesting, or do you think it's kind of cheap?
Okay. So the thing is, I have not actually watched or familiarized myself with the other franchise it's trying to cross into. Mm-hmm. And that's also what bothers me, because it's like, oh wow, not only does this alienate people who have never seen Higurashi, but also it's alienating people like me who actually only has seen Higurashi and not this other thing. Because they're two completely different things. And it's very ambiguous, actually, as to whether or not they actually do intersect with each other, literally. They both cross-reference each other in very interesting ways, but it's literally, like, just the creator's way of, like, reusing, like, metaphors and character names and just to apply them to a different
Okay.
story. Like, it's literally like me being like, I don't know, like, yeah, like, oh, this like, I don't know, you're named John, like, you're a character in this one series, and I decide to make another series that's completely like, and doesn't mean you're like the exact same John in like this other thing, right? Like, that's what this is. So I don't know. It's very interesting that they're trying to connect it now, like directly, like explicitly,
Right.
in this incarnation, and I think that's like kind of not great. Like, I'm not saying it's terrible, but like, I think that's interesting that they're going to do it now, but like, I don't think it's great that they're doing it in this form, especially since especially since content has not been made with that other thing like for a long time anyway.
It almost feels like retroactively covering their ass. Like,
right.
Oh, well, we were planning this the whole time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, people... yeah, I don't know what direction this is headed, so I don't know. I'll just see what this movie ultimately is, or, like, whatever special... I don't know if it's a movie per se, but it's some sort of thing that still will lead up to this.
The next thing. Okay. Alright, how did Dr. Ramune wrap up?
They had a nice picnic. Nothing terrible happened. At the end.
Right.
They had a nice picnic where all the past, like, Dr. Ramanu's past clients were like, oh, thanking him. And they were like, oh, they were all attending this picnic, like showing how much they appreciate his work. It was a very strange episode. He suddenly got depressed, realizing, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm like not a good doctor. Like, it was just strange. It like came out of nowhere. There was no reason for it to happen.
But you're Dr.
Because at some point, at some point, like 3 or so episodes before, prior, like they introduced like his mentor, who also was kind of like not a real character. Where like, I don't know, like they don't really go into it further, and I kind of wish they did, but he's kind of intimidated by this guy who mentored him. He thinks like, oh, he's way too good for me, etc. And I don't know. They don't really have, there's really no stakes in that relationship at all. Like the whole thing is like, oh yeah, he feels pressured by him because he kind of has certain expectations of like his practice and his methods. But ultimately it boiled down to like, oh yeah, his methods work, even though he's kind of nuts and crazy when he does it. But like ultimately it came down to like, they work, and he made people happy and he cured people of their problems. And that was that. Literally, that's what happens in the episode. He was just sad that, like, oh, I don't know if I'm cut for this. But then in the end, like, that's just what it was. It was just such a non-issue. The couple episodes prior, they like actually went into the backstory of his assistant and how his assistant met up with him. And it was kind of like, it was nice. It was like his whole thing was like his assistant kept having like hunger issues. He kept vomiting like this black sludge, and it's like not a natural thing at all. And it went into how his family, he comes from a big family where they kind of pressure him, and they don't realize how that's kind of like abusive in a way. Like they don't realize how that's indirectly abusive, where they keep having these high expectations of him, and then he feels ashamed that like, oh no, I gotta like, I gotta like appease my family. I gotta help them out, because if I don't, like I'm like a slacker, etc. And it just kind of goes into like the whole thing about like sometimes, families don't mean the harm that they're doing upon you when you're doing like, and like if you don't speak up, they probably don't realize that, and that's kind of what that was going to, like, and in friendships, like if you sometimes we put more pressure on ourselves than other people, and that's kind of what that was going into. So, but yeah, ultimately it ends on like a strangely not weird note. It just ends on a perfectly normal picnic that they're all having with all the past clients that they went through in all the different episodes. But yeah, very strange series. The last episode was the least strange thing about it.
All right. Heaven's design team ended nice.
Yeah.
It was a nice ending. It
Very
was a little
nice.
silly. It was a little silly, but I had a good time. And that's what matters.
Yes.
I definitely just walked away from it just hoping that they do a season 2. Because, they could just keep doing this forever. There's a lot of animals they could talk about forever.
They could.
Yeah. It was really funny that, they just, like, reveal what they reveal at the end. It's really
Mm-hmm.
stupid,
I
but
think
in
it
a
was
fun
very
way.
good.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those things where I was just like, that's dumb. But then I was like, ah, like it's stupid, but you're just like, all right, that they're having fun with this.
Yeah,
It's fine.
I feel like in every episode where they kind of do that same thing where they build up, like, oh, what is this going to be? You get this, like, horrifying, like, monstrosity thing they start off with, and you're like, what is this going to, like, it becomes a guessing game per episode at that point. It's like, what is this going to be? Like, what the hell is this?
Mhm.
And then, like, I've been always surprised, like, every episode, and I've been like, what? Okay. And I just think, I don't know, that to me is great. Like, I've been genuinely surprised every episode, and I think that's a good thing. Like, again, the same one. I thought it was going to be something else, and I thought it was going to be a platypus, and I was like, it's not a platypus. That's not a platypus at all. Oh gosh, like whenever they're going to deal with the platypus, that'd be very interesting. I'm sure it's already been done in the
Yeah.
manga, but I bet that's really funny whenever that comes around.
Absolutely, yeah. There are so many just weirdo animals
Yeah.
that, like,
Oh, God.
you can think of, and then you can't even think of. Like they've introduced animals to me that I've never heard of in the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
So definitely, I mean, there's a manga. The manga's still going, and I don't. I thought about this, and I don't know why this specifically made me think about it, but something that's unique to anime, I feel, is how it feels like, because of the way that, like, you never really know unless it's something like, Naruto or My Hero Academia or something that's
Yeah.
big and Shonen Jump and will go on forever. You never know if something's going to get a second season until the second they announce it. So it feels like most anime, their season finale is always a series finale. It's like, what other like art thing, what other just like piece of art presents itself as the end every single time,
Right.
like, because they don't know, nobody knows except for the people that are in charge of it, and even then they don't know until they get all the numbers in and they decide that it'll make them more money.
Yeah,
So,
I think unfortunately it's become like a standard thing where people like who work in the industry are like, yeah, we don't know if this is. So they probably literally write the episode, or they try to frame the episodes around that. And if it wasn't clear to begin with, like if for some reason the episode was intentionally ends on an ambiguous note, for instance, like I was talking about with Yashahime and Higurashi, like they knew beforehand probably, like, yeah, we're gonna get a continuation. So this is why it's framed this way. Or we are contracted to do some sort of weird special thing after, so they plan ahead. I think a lot too about like a lot of animated series, like Western animation, that like they get canceled abruptly, or or something, something a lot of, like when you watch that last episode, that was not a finale. It's some sort of big storyline usually. They kind of had a sense of like, we don't, but that was not a finale. Like it doesn't wrap up a lot of things. I think a lot. I don't know why this is coming to mind now. But the original Teen Titans animated series, I don't know why that's coming to mind. I don't know why that's. But though I remember the finale was when Beast Boy has to, the Terra arc. That was not a finale. That focuses on Beast Boy specifically. I think that was it. I don't know. If I'm wrong, someone correct me. Someone yell at me about Teen Titans. But that was the finale of the series. I
remember that. Yeah, I think that was because they wanted to do another season and they couldn't.
Yeah.
And then they just did that like Japan movie, and that was like the actual finale.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like they kind of sense like, okay, we're getting canceled, or like they're not sure. They instead like ended on just a big storyline,
right.
But they don't really wrap up other things. It doesn't feel like they wrap out other things, like, So it's a very different industry and a very different attitude over how to approach that situation, really. But yeah, you're right. It's very interesting. I can't think of like other situations where you have live action series too. Like, yeah, like live action series, it just ends on an even more abrupt note, if anything. Or rather, if they have like a more haphazard finale to work around, like compared to animation, they have an easier job to like last minute round up like actors and whatnot. But even then, they have limits over that, like with their contracts, etc. They can't just be like, oh, you got to show up. Like, no, you're like those actors, like terms, like stipulate, like, yeah, this show has got canceled. They can't do any more with that. So yeah, you're right. Like anime seems to have like this sort of like second instinct already over what to do when like a season ends. It just feels like a finale.
All right. All right, LV. You're down to your last two. I'm down to my final one. So I think these will be the more challenging ones of the episode here.
Yes.
So did you watch Redo of Healer, or do you just want to bring it up?
I just want to make an observation. I did not watch Redo of Healer at all. I 10-foot pole, if not longer, away from that thing. Avoided it like a plague. I've only been reading things around it, and I've seen some horrible clips of it, yeah, but I've not actually actively watched this thing. I want to comment how no one fucking talking about the show, and I think that is a win for the anime community.
We dodged it.
We dodged it like a bullet. As I've said, I think when I first time I mentioned this when this thing was out, I was like, listen, if you don't watch this, you're good. You're fucking good. Again, it's all the power to, like, if you just ignore bad things, just ignore bad paid actors, just don't talk. That's it. That's how they get empowered. Like, so my thing I want to comment this is like, I just, again, I've seen only clips of like the horrible like second episode and what, and like, again, I mostly read thorough reviews of the first episode. I've not actually watched a full episode. I've only seen a couple of things about it. It seems like not even the people who like stuck around to watch it for like, the lulls, or just because like they are curious, like they genuinely are curious about like, how bad the show is. No one is getting anything out of this show. It seems like from the weird like clips I've seen out of context, like even the people, like the animation quality of the show seems really bad, like really bad. Like it just went downhill, like exponentially, like in a horrible way. And it seems like even the animators of the show, like, this is a terrible show, we're gonna sabotage it. But no one like watching the show, from what I'm reading, talking about it, like again, watching it either for just to be a troll edgelord, or like someone who just genuinely is curious and somehow wants to just endure this, is talking about the show in a positive way at all. The show like actually has genuine negative criticism of it, and it's not even coming from like outsiders like us. It's genuinely coming from people who are sticking around watching it. So I don't know. I think that just says a lot to, if you're going to put out a story like this, the edginess cannot edginess cannot just win like for so long, and that gives me hope. Like, it's not like I think people have been burnt out by like controversies over stuff like Shield Hero, etc. Like, and then what's the word? Reviewers, even though reviewers actually is not offensive, it's just porn that shouldn't have been put on a pedestal the way it was. But stuff like Shield Hero and like arguably the controversies around stuff like Goblin Slayer, whatnot. Like edginess cannot like air any popularity for so long. It seems like there genuinely is like a burnt out situation going on with stuff like this. You can't just herald controversy as like a marketing tactic, and just expect that to work. But genuinely, I feel like the studio sabotaged the show. This is what it sounds like. I don't know. I think also because the fact that it actually was like limited too. Very limited in like where you can find it. I mean, it's on Hive Dive, but that's it. But nothing is marketed in the show unless you seek it out. And the version you find on Hive Dive, I think, is heavily cut and censored. Like there's nothing, like there's no sex scenes, there's none of the rape stuff. Like a lot of it's just cut out, or again like lasers or black screens. And yeah, I don't know. Something about the show was like it was deeply sabotaged, like halfway through, and I think well deserved. Because we should not be like putting stories like this on a pedestal. Like again, there are I think are genuine like stories that you could explore, like the idea of someone being abused and how like revenge stories and whatnot. But like everything about this like premise is very distasteful and horrible, and like not in any way I think gives justice to people who have been abused, but rather it seems like just someone who for some reason wants to make a distasteful like revenge story that doesn't really empower anyone, right? But yeah. That was a controversy. That was an uproar some of that managed to avoid because no one is talking about the show. So
So
there's that.
I wanted to test your theory,
Yeah.
and I looked it up on Twitter.
Right.
I searched it up, and I mean, to be fair, there is a lot of people trying to get this happens like every other month. A bunch of people make images that are like, say your opinion or whatever to get clout, but everything that I saw while looking up Redo of Healer were just reactions to somebody posting what is the worst anime you have ever watched.
Right.
So
yeah.
yeah, it's just people saying, yeah, this fucking sucked. This was awful. I only watched one episode, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, I don't think anyone likes it. I don't think anyone can even pretend to like it to make the SJWs mad.
Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, like those people are just gonna go after Dragon Maid and
yes.
or fucking or Nagatoro.
Oh,
We got Nagatoro coming up.
Right.
Like.
But yeah, there seems to be a threshold somewhere, which is like,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. But genuinely, again, like from what I've seen of this show, like the quality of it is actually just genuinely bad too. Like and again, I'm like, maybe the studio was like, this fucking sucks. We're just not gonna put work into it. So that's that. It's a reprehensible story. So it is what it is.
Because I mean, yeah, like say what you will about the actual quality of the content in like say Goblin Slayer or Shield Hero. There was at least like money put behind it and like it's well animated and all that, but they didn't care. Like this is probably just like a cheapo cash grab thing to just try to ride the wave of offensiveness.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. All right. Well, I think it's time for you to put the cap on the thing that has been, I feel it has been a specter haunting you for the last few months. LV, let's hear the wrap up for Geki Doll.
Oh my gosh. I finally actually watched Alice in Deadly School. For some reason, I did not see it up front. It should have been this released before Geki Doll, but wow. Where to begin? And where to begin? Because I don't know what the fuck happened. I don't know what the fuck happened in this finale at all. So many things happened. So, right. Last I was talking about, like, okay, the city was about to explode. The city was, like, literally about to be wiped out by this insane man who was, like, who might be influenced by a robot at this point. It's like, yeah, I'm going to make this, like, idol, like an idol world and whatnot. And then for some reason, as that's going on, like, the girls in, like, the idol unit, they're, like, still practicing. They're still on 10. We're going to put in a fucking show. As meanwhile, the world outside is I think my best way of describing it is, like, when Thanos snapped and everyone's fucking disappearing. That's literally what is happening outside. And these girls are so intent still on practicing and rehearsing for, like, no one's fucking... But anyway, it was such a strange string of events in this film. I was very confused as to what happened because, okay, so this is where the finale truly solidified that this series and what I'm saying seems to be like a bigger franchise that they want to make around this thing. Mm-hmm. This series was clearly following in the shadow of something like Madoka, and specifically the works of Shaft and how, like, Shaft, like, I mentioned Shaft because, like, they're not the only ones who do this in, like, anime, but, like, yeah, they're, like, often the studio people say in terms of, like, actually taking interesting avant-garde approaches to how they present scenes. Like, there's very strange editing. Like, characters go off in non sequiturs and, like, environments that don't make sense, but it's intentional. Like, that's very intentional for, like, a lot of things they do. And they were clearly, like, trying to imitate it, but none of it made sense. Like, it was... So the final scenes of the show is, like, the main characters, like, having this argument with each other, but the world is, like, fucking collapsing around them. They're having this, like, weird petty argument about their friendship, about their relationship. At this point, I'm not sure. At this point, and then suddenly, like, the class, they're, like, in a classroom as everyone's fucking disappearing around them. And then now suddenly they're on stage. They're like on stage having this argument. So now you're like, I get what they're doing. They're like, oh, are they actually acting or are they having a real argument? And the argument does not resemble at all as to like, again, this play. They never put on this play, like this play that they've been rehearsing throughout this whole series. And then like and then the argument culminates where the main character's like, like slaps like two of her friends who are like, you two should stop fighting. Like, why are you like dismissing the friendship you had? And then slowly, and they're like having this argument on the stage in an empty theater. And then suddenly different audience members like pop up in the theater, and then like the argument ends or like something like that, and then they start clapping. It was literally like, oh, and everyone clapped moment. It was ridiculous. And then they bow. So like, was that a play or was that like a weird like what was going on? And then we finally cut back to the crazy producer man, who I don't know. I guess like, I don't know what happened there. Like, I guess they destroyed the computer. I don't know. I guess there was some sort of computer. There was some sort of supercomputer, like, fueling this whole thing. They destroyed it. I guess he regrets his actions. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to change his mind. And then, like, we now have this, like, giant explosion that fades to white. And everyone just, I guess, dies. And then it cuts back to the first episode. So what exactly happened here was implying that after all of that has happened, we time traveled back to the first episode where none of this has happened.
What?
And specifically where the first like disaster has not happened. So now we see a shot showing that the city is fine. There was never a city that like exploded. None of that has happened. So now we're seeing like the first episode like replay its events, but in a different way. Where none of the girls have met each other yet, but it's implying that's going to head that way soon. But our main character is now back to like to become an idol, but they haven't met each other yet. So yeah, that's literally what happens in the finale. Like, everything time travels back to the first episode, except everything is better, ? But that's what happens. And it implies basically, like, okay, all these things are now going to happen again, but better, because yeah, none of that bullshit has happened with the crazy like, man, it was ridiculous. It was very ridiculous. None of it made sense. Nothing was explained, really. It was just really stupid. That's what happens. So then after that, I finally watched Alice in Deadly Skull, which was, again, this play they never put on. They rehearsed the Alice in, like, again, just to reiterate, Alice in Deadly Skull is like this weird zombie story that is referenced in Geki Doll as a fictional story of like a play. And it's a play they're trying to rehearse, and they never actually act out the play. But anyway, I finally see Alice in Deadly Skull, so it's a self-contained thing. And this was made before Geki Doll, so this actually was put out before Geki Doll debuted. And that was even worse. This was like emulating Shaft's like editing like to the fullest, because it was the most ridiculous thing. So the whole thing was like these girls are hanging out on the school rooftop, and they get an announcement that, oh shit, there's some like they don't say it explicitly. They never say the word zombie. They never say the word undead. But the school council president is announcing like, oh no, there's some dangers afoot in the first floor. Anyone who's above that, please stay above the first floor as we're trying to figure out what's going on. Underclassmen, please stick around with your superiors. Please stay safe and watch out for you. Like, she's just saying positive messages. It seems to be like an all-girls school. Yeah, and meanwhile, as that's going on, like, so there's these little groups within this cast that, again, we don't get to know. It's just a 40-minute special. This is not a series. We have like these two girls, and then like, okay, I don't know how am I going to approach this, but okay. So these girls don't talk like normal people. They're like all talking in non sequiturs. Like, this is again my reference to back. Like, they're trying to emulate Shaft. I don't know why I say Flash. Mm-hmm. Shaft, and like all the strange like like avant-garde stuff they do, but they're doing it in such a way that seems very bad. There's like a lot of strange awkward cutting, but like, yeah, the girls don't talk like normal girls. Like, so two of the girls, like, they seem to be best friends, and they keep talking in these metaphors. I'm like, no one fucking talks like this. And then there's like another issue going on where like another group of girls where actually, yeah, I'm getting confused trying to talk about this. Basically, my point is they're not acting like there is like a zombie apocalypse going on. They're acting like they're just like amongst themselves and like they're still having these like weird problems, and they're not acting at all any urgency whatsoever that like, oh shit, there's like a zombie apocalypse. They're just like acting like nothing's happening, which again is very weird and goes back to my issue with what happens in the Geki Doll finale. If I'm connecting these two, where these two things are trying so hard to like displace these characters to be like mouthpieces for like to go off on some like philosophical rants, like detached from like what the actual plot is, but they don't do it well. At some point, one of the girls gets bitten. Well, she doesn't get bitten, but it was stupid to begin with. For some reason, they wander off in danger, pretending like, you know, as if nothing bad is happening. Like, oh, and like, I don't know, they see a zombie and they're like, oh yeah, that's weird. Why isn't that girl moving? They're stupid. They're all stupid. Like, they're not acting like there's some zombie apocalypse going on, and they just wander off, going off from the safe areas that they're supposed to stay in just to hang out and pretend like school's still going on for some reason. But yeah, one of the girls gets exposed, and they like spend this time together where they kind of don't really explicitly say that. They're just like realizing that like, oh, they have these final hours together as these two friends, and they kind of have like these flashbacks showing like, yeah, these two girls were like close friends with each other and whatnot. But again, like, we're not really getting like attached to these characters that are like we're only getting thrown in this special. We don't like, this would have benefited from a series if anything. But again, it's still very bad. And at some point, they're just hanging out, like nothing's happening, and ultimately, at some point, one of the other girls, the girl who is turning slowly, she just walks off screen, and it took me a while to realize what happened, but I think she killed herself because she realizes, like, oh, it's too late. But they don't fucking say anything about that. And then, like, the other girl just starts crying. Like, there's a lot of stuff that just starts happening off screen and they're not clear as to what's going on. And they just expect you to know what's going on. At some point, like, the girl starts hallucinating her friend. Like, there's a whole trippy sequence where, like, they're, like, just talking again. And then she realizes, like, oh, and, you know, she like, looks up and realizes, like, the reality saying, like, oh, shit, there's, like, a lot of, like, all this horrible stuff going on. I have, like, nowhere where to go now. And it just ends on that really sad note. And then, meanwhile, there's, like, another sequence where it focuses on these group of other girls who are trying to fight the zombies for some reason when they could have just, again, stayed in a safe spot. And for some reason, they just start arguing about really petty stuff over, like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't hang out with that girl because she smokes. Very weird. I don't know why you're, like, arguing about that, like, in the middle of, like, a zombie thing. Like, I don't know why. Why is that? But again, like, they just... Oh, God, it was just terrible. It just had, like, all these, like, weird subplots it tried to cram in the middle, like, of a zombie story that makes no sense. And like, and with really bad editing, it keeps cutting in very strange camera angles. Like, and again, like I said, it's one of those things where you just kind of need to see what they're doing, because once you see it, it's like, oh yeah, they're trying to be like artsy here, but it's not quite working. A lot of shots seem just like they're just editing mistakes, you know. It was just very odd. And like, you know, coming out of it, I'm like, I don't know what happened. Like, it's just the same feeling as the Geki Doll finale. Like, I don't know what happened. There was just so much that has happened here, and I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from. Even more offensively, the Alice in Deadly School had like a full song ending sequence. Like, it just had like a whole slideshow of the different girls, as if like I was supposed to care about them. Jeez. And it was just a very sad piano song. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to even continue. Like, I don't kind of care about what's going to happen with the rest of these girls. But yeah, I don't know. It just left a really bad taste in my mouth. It was just like, these two things are trying to be like these two like starting off like projects to represent what might be a bigger franchise, and I don't know where that's going to go. So like, my take is like, it seems like this is trying to be like a franchise that wants to be critical of the idol industry, right? As I was saying with Geki Doll, but it's doing it in such a way that's very messy and not really coherent. I don't know. It was just really bad. The strongest thing I can say about Alice in Deadly School before I finally stop talking about this thing, was I think they did a really interesting job with one of the characters, which again is the student council president. They don't show her throughout. This is the only thing that I thought was cool. They don't show her throughout this special. Again, she is someone, you just hear her as a voice who is announcing like these positive messages throughout the intercom. You see her once in the beginning, but that's it. And she goes back to like locking herself in like the office to do the announcements to bring positive messages as everyone's doing with the zombie crisis. And towards the end, we finally see her again. And for some reason, she starts breaking out into song. And it's like a very disturbing scene where like she turns to the audience and we see her neck has been bitten. But then she kind of starts singing like in this very delusional like idol sequence. And like there's like this whole sequence where she turns into an idol and everything. And she's singing as like we see scenes of like more students turning into zombies and whatnot. And I thought that was like really cool. I thought that was like a very disturbing thing. But also like that was like the only idol thing that ties this back to this bigger idol franchise. That was very strange. But overall, I thought that was the only interesting thing where I just thought that was like well done, but everything else was like a mess. But yeah, ultimately, we are not safe from the shadow of like what Monica has done. There's like clearly like, a lot of work out here that wants to do some weird like, oh yeah, like here's this concept, but make it dark, make it twisted. But it's not, and this is an example of like it not doing well. There's just so many of that, and it's like we can't escape it from that legacy. But yeah, again, this is supposed to be a bigger franchise. I don't know if there's gonna be anything else after this. We're like, oh yeah, more idols and twisted situations, which is what I'm getting from here. But I don't know, like like both Alice in Deli School and Geki Doll have not been getting good responses. So I don't know if they're gonna keep going on with that, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Well,
exhausting.
You're free.
I'm free
for now.
For now, yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Speaking of being technically free, Wonder Egg is done for now.
For now.
They're gonna do another episode later. Watch that last episode and I don't care.
I actually have not caught up. I've been like, I'm just gonna wait. Honestly.
Probably smart. I mean,
I've been so disenchanted by like, oh, this isn't great. This doesn't sound great. It's fine. You can just spoil it for me if anything.
I'm trying to think of the way to like describe it even. So
yeah.
So like the girls kind of separate. They're all like pissed.
Yeah.
And so Ai's like, all right, I'm gonna do my final egg run. And so she goes, cracks the egg, and it's her inside of the egg.
Okay.
She's inside of her own egg. And then the Akkas go, this is an eye from a parallel universe where you killed yourself.
Okay.
So, yeah. So she goes to save herself from another universe, and for a while, like, she's like, the other one is in her school uniform, so it's easy to kind of tell which is which. And the monster that she has to kill is the teacher.
Okay. All right. So they're finally like making it clear what's going on with that. Okay.
In a sense.
All right.
So he's like, saying like, oh, I'm your mom's fiance, and you're in love with me, and it doesn't really go further than that. Like, it doesn't really, like, it still doesn't say, like, what he did specifically.
Right, like, was he a predator? Yeah. Like, like, what, like, okay. And it doesn't even answer that, okay.
It doesn't answer that, at least, like, not explicitly. And it's just very strange. And then they fight him for a bit, and then it just gets really confusing because then it shows both eyes in the school uniform.
Okay.
So it's really confusing on if it's supposed to be like a flashback for our eye or like a what if for the eye that killed herself, because then it shows like Eye trying to kill herself and then her friend shows up and saves her. But then there's a shot of them going up to the roof and they're gonna like jump together. And then Eye refuses to do so and then like fights back against the teacher. And then the bug girl shows up and tries to kill her, but it takes out her eye. Mm-hmm. Her eye.
Yeah.
but it's actually the one that killed herself, the alternate universe Eye. So the real Eye is safe, and then it just ends.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's okay. That's hmm.
and then they're just like they basically just go, all right, see you later, bye. Like, okay.
Huh. Okay. Okay. So, no, okay. So, based on like what has happened from the strange last couple of episodes, where like it goes into the backstory of the Akka and like this other girl, I feel like this episode if they cut out those two episodes, I think this episode kind of would fit like prior to those. Like if we were to
Mm.
remove like the whole like whatever they're going to go into like the metaphysics stuff, this still feels like in the vein of like okay, this still fits in with the previous stuff of like okay, they're just I think this still kind of makes. Well, it doesn't make sense. I don't know what to make of it, but I'm saying it's still like formulaically, it still fits in with that other stuff. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with there. I don't know if that's going to be, and I don't know if that's going to be explored further. But yeah, okay, I don't know what. All right. So what is it? What is that saying? Is that saying like she cannot even? Her suicide in another universe is inevitable. Like she cannot even save herself. Like, is that a failed mission? Like, okay, I don't know. I'm overthinking it because I don't even know what that was.
Like
I didn't
she
see
did it because it shows her friend being like released and like turned into the ether, like the girls did.
Oh, okay.
So she succeeds. Yeah, she succeeds.
So was it like she had to sacrifice herself for her friend? Was that what that was? At the cost of like her other self dying? Okay.
Well, no, it's more like I think it was. See, that's the thing is like I'm not 100% sure which Eye was like going through that like revelation because like it makes sense in that like I getting a friend is what saved her because she was being bullied all the time and like I mean it's a little confusing because like I don't know, maybe they're trying to say that like she got like her crush on the teacher was kind of keeping her going if she didn't have a friend, and then the teacher started to date her mom and then that pushed her over the maybe I don't know. I feel like I'm just so confused, like the fact that they dressed them both up the same, like that was definitely like on purpose to try to like obfuscate things. But I just thought it just made it confusing and made the message not work because like I don't know what the actual truth is, like I don't know what happened to which character. I don't know if this is just like a what if scenario for the dead Eye or like what actually happened with the alive Eye. I can't really tell, and like I don't know. It's confusing to be confusing instead of just like being like interesting and artistic.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the facade of this show has dropped where for the first while it was like, oh, this is this really pretty, really like interesting thing, let's see where it goes. And then it dropped the curtain and then it went, well, here's where it goes in circles, isn't that exciting? And I'm just like, no, I'm gonna get off this ride, I'm good.
It did, like especially since like it just sounds like it didn't really even acknowledge what the hell they revealed and like the so like I don't that's frustrating. That's a break from that for a couple months though.
Yeah, it's gonna sneak back up on us, and we're just gonna be like, oh fuck. Oh, come on, we gotta watch Wonder Egg.
Free us from the egg.
Gotta watch friggin' Wonder Egg and find out what the hell they're trying to do with this. Come on. Ugh.
I don't know, like, and it's still that's still like far off before I probably should say this, but it kind of reminds me of like not as bad though, but I kind of was disappointed with Moaru Penguin Drum. It kind
Okay.
of went like a similar route halfway through, where it did have like an interesting thing where it revealed its connection with like a horrible real life situation that happened in Japan,
Right.
and I thought that was interesting, like very typical, very Ikuhara, where it like a lot of stuff that's happening with the characters was like very allegorical, but then it kind of just goes sideways and a little too.
Hmm.
Like I was, in my opinion, like I know some other people probably have a different take on it, but I felt like it got a little too fantastical at the end in terms of like,
Right.
okay, this is beyond like connecting it back to like the reality
Hmm.
of like, okay, like I wish it was more grounded in like what it was trying to do, as opposed to like, yeah, actually there are like magical, weird, trippy stuff happening. Literally, this is not symbolic. It was like, what? Okay. Whereas something like Uchino was clear, like all of this was allegorical. None of this, like none. Well, not I wouldn't argue. I would say none of it, but like a lot of it was really symbolic. And a
She
lot.
turns into a car,
Yeah, she turns into a car. Yeah,
but it's important that she turns
it's
into a
very
car.
important. She turns into a car. It's the peak of lesbian evolution.
It's true. Yeah.
But no, like yeah, it was just it.
No, I get it. Like there's definitely like good ways to be allegorical about real life scenarios, and it's there's definitely ways to do it, but I just think that Wonder Egg being like, oh yeah, this magical, like as soon as they went, yeah, this magical robot girl that two guys invented that is also really horny for them, invented suicide for women. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
All right, guys. All right. I'm good. I'm taking my ball and going home. See ya. I don't want to play with you anymore. But I'm still going to watch the rest of this because I already watched
right.
seven episodes of this shit.
I guess I gotta finish this.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I'm ready to watch the ending. I want to see how they try to wrap this up, because like I feel like there's I feel like to even attempt to like any kind of attempt to answer any of the shit that they posited, this is gonna have to be like a 45-minute to even an hour special or some shit. Like, there's no way they're just doing another like 23-minute long episode or whatever.
Right.
This is gonna have to be like a special length thing.
Right.
It's fucking, it's off the fucking goop. There's I've Wonder Egg. All right. Let's move on to questions. If you want to send in a question, it's videogamechoochoo.tumblr.com/ask. You'll sound like these folks right here. Century Punk asks us, what is your ideal type of mech anime? That is a very broad question, but valid as well. I will have to think about that. Do you have a favorite type of mech anime?
Like, ideal as in it doesn't exist yet, or just in general, like what gets your vibe going with mech anime?
I mean, I would just say just be like, hey, what's going on with like the themes that they tackle, the kind of mech they are, I guess, if you have like a particular type of mech, I don't know, that sort of thing.
I really like the original Gundam. And I think why it stays with a lot of people, not only because it's like, oh yeah, this obviously influenced everything after, with all its tropes, and but I just like the balance of like the goofiness with the political, like kind of the socio-political stuff going on. I don't know. I think that's why I like stuff like Legend of Galactic Heroes, because there's like a lot of very human moments where I guess I don't know, like what's and like we watched Patlabor. I guess I'm really into like not hard military fiction, but stuff like. But I think I don't know. Would it be light military fiction? Because that's what that is. It's like where they spend like half the time just doing really mundane stuff, just talking mundane stuff, completely just focusing on these like lives, completely devoid of anything really. And then we get to the nitty gritty of like, yeah, space fights, shooty, woo. I do like that stuff. I guess I do like kind of want to see more goofy takes on mechs again. Because we haven't seen that for a hot second where it wasn't like, like, I don't know, like, it'd be just nice to see like some sort of series at some point where, it's just like, oh, people like living with mechs as like a normal everyday occurrence, and it's not being used for evil reasons. It's not being used for like it's just I'd be curious to see like a series like that at some point. Most of that stuff we've seen really in parody. Really, like, Full Metal Panic kind of does that in parody. Sergeant Frog kind of, but we don't really, I don't know, we don't really see the idea of like just giant robots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like everything we've seen of mechs recently has been intentionally like, here's a subversion of the mech genre. Like, no, that has been every one of them. No, so thus far we haven't seen just a genuine like, yeah, no, this is just a thing, So I'd be curious to see something like that. Well, something a little more lighthearted at some point.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I think, like, I'll take anything with mechs, like,
Yeah.
I'm not someone who's like, I need it to be hard politics, I need it to be completely goofy. I like either, like, I had a great time watching Patlabor. I'll fucking watch like G Gundam to just be like, yeah, this is dumb as shit. Of course, you have to take the good and the bad with that because it's stereotypical as fuck, but also it's just dumb fun. But I also like Evangelion. Like, it's cliche as hell, but Evangelion is still like my favorite anime, and that is like 100% because it is, it's a mech anime. People will argue that it's not technically, but it is. But
It is.
it's tackling something interesting, and like that affected me a lot when I watched it when I was younger. So yeah, I mean, it's I feel like a mech anime can do anything. You can really do anything with robots. It's cool that because they're like a tool. They are a means to an end in the story, and so you can use those tools as a showcase of conflict. Like mechs are the personification of the human piloting them. They are.
Yeah.
It is an extension of themselves. So, like it's an easy big loud way to present conflict between characters, conflict between the world, conflict within the self. So yeah, just give me whatever. I guess I would say. And to wrap us up, we got a question from Horror Errors who asks, so we've had skeleton isekai, slime isekai, and now spider isekai. So what basic monster type or non-human entity needs an isekai? In my opinion, snake isekai, just a little snake slithering in a cave having fun. We just need more isekai about being a weird little creature in a dungeon. I am all for this concept. What fucking little creature would you want to become? I guess that's the question. Really, is what fucked up little creature would you want to become if you were isekai? If you had to be like a mook, like a level 1 monster, I guess.
Wow. Okay, I have to think about this. Oh, that's like scary because it's like, oh, I don't want to. Uh, how do mushrooms feel? Like how? I don't, that's the question. I like, I'm thinking of like the cute mushrooms with eyeballs on them.
So you're thinking like there's like the little like a fucking Gaia Online mushroom? Is that what you're
Yeah. Oh,
thinking
yeah.
about?
Maple Story. Yeah.
Or Maple Story?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
They're
Maple
pretty
Story.
tough. They're pretty like until you get like a certain level.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, these things can kill you. They're pretty tough. They're pretty tough skinned.
I mean,
I would like to be that cute. Yeah.
So,
But I don't know.
I was
Having no
gonna say,
arms
I mean,
is kind of sucks. I don't know how to feel about. Maybe, but yeah, if I'm in that body, I'll probably get used to it.
well, here's the thing. you could go for the Maple Story mushroom, or you could go for the Dark Soul.
That's probably how I will evolve as I level up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. You
grow
hit level
arms.
100.
I grow limbs.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of like iconic creatures, but you know what? I'm gonna go for like Mario Isekai and be like a Koopa Troopa. That'd be pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm a fucking Koopa Paratroopa in another world with my smartphone, and I show all the Koopa Troopas. Look, this is how Mario moves. I have a speed run right here. We can stop him, and then you defeat Mario, and then that's the story. Or like I so I'm a Bokoblin. So what? I don't know. I mean, like a Dragon Quest slime too. That'd be
Oh
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're kind of respected. Like
They're
they're
adorable
probably
too.
you just leave them alone at a certain point. And you're like, I don't want to deal with this.
Respect.
They're too
Yeah.
low leveled. So that probably is
Yeah,
not.
but
That's probably like less risky compared to other slimes.
yeah, but then I feel like at some point you got to be careful because what if you become too powerful and you become a metal slime?
Oh,
Everyone's gonna want to
yeah,
kill
you're
you.
right.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I don't know how that works. I don't know if there's like, cause I mean, I know there's like the hierarchy because you got like the heel slimes,
Got
and you got
fire
like all the different
slimes.
colors and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
they're all
then
color
like the
coded.
king slime.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I always have a fondness for the like little cannon fodder enemies. Your Goombas, all those like little guys. Like
Yeah.
that's why I like serve. That's why I love serve bots. They're just little guys like going around. having a good
Actually, I
time.
would love to be like a Waddle Dee.
Yes. Yes.
They're just they're just chilling.
You know what?
But yeah.
Who's to say? Who's to say that Bandana Waddle Dee isn't just someone who got isekai?
You're right.
I mean, like, it's just a Waddle Dee, but it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I got a spear, and I'm helping Kirby. Like, there you go. Yeah, that explains it. Bandana Waddle Dee is an isekai character. There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Write it. Sakurai, call me up. We can write the light novel,
someone-
make the anime.
Yeah, I hope someone explores that.
Yeah, there you go.
Would love
That
to
makes
be a
sense to
Waddle
me.
Dee.
All right, well, that should do it. LV, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell folks what you picked for the next anime?
It is my turn. Here at last. So I think it was just nice to have something that I feel like I don't know, like here in North America, here on the New England side. It's technically spring, but we will approach summer soon. I don't know. The weather is off the shits. It's some days it's warm, some days it's freezing for no reason. So I'm just gonna it's summer. It's gonna be summer soon. Even though that's probably not right. The anime I'm picking this time will be the first season of the Aria anime, and which is called Aria the Animation. A little weird because the whole thing is animation, but that's what the first season is called, Aria the Animation, which is based on the manga, and which is basically about like a group of like these young girls who are essentially gondoliers who like boat along the streams of Mars in the future, which has been terraformed and flooded. And basically the world is like a water planet where it's similar to Venice in Italy, where there's like a lot of rivers going through the city and people have to travel through those canals. And so it's a very peaceful, calming, very, very healing, meditative, like slice of life anime. It's just about them doing their jobs and the clients they meet as they travel through their little city in Mars. Again, it's in Mars and you don't realize it. But yeah, it's like a light sci-fi in that way. But it's a very sweet series. And I think another movie has been announced for it.
Ooh.
Upcoming as well at some point. But yeah, there's like multiple seasons and we're just going to focus on the first season.
Okay, yeah, get in on the hype now.
Yeah, I think it's on Crunchyroll, so that's on one platform you can get it.
Okay,
View it. Yeah.
right. Okay. Right. Let's see here. Of course, if you are listening to this for free, no hate. But if you want to upgrade, it's just $3 a month at patreon.com/VGCC. Not only do you get these episodes a week early, but you can also recommend an anime to us. We're gonna probably need to get some more of those coming in soon, because we've only got a few in the back row, the backlog. I don't know why I said row, the backlog. So we're gonna need some more choices from you all. Feel free to hit us up with whatever, as long as it's kosher and has some way to watch it within 12 to 13 episodes or so, or like a movie or two or three, I guess. Be reasonable. Be reasonable. But yes, you will be able to do that if you're a patron. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at VGChooChoo. Got our Tumblr, videogamechoochoo.tumblr.com. And, we have our Discord server, thegamezone.zone. Type that into your web browser and it'll bring you straight there. Because, hey, guess what? We're hanging out in there. We're talking anime. We're talking a bunch of other stuff. But, if you're only interested in anime, there is an anime room. You could just hang out in there and, yell at us for our wrong opinions. Except you can't do that because we're smart and geniuses.
Yeah.
Only genius opinions here.
Mm-hmm.
LV, where can people find you online?
I am on Twitter at LVMAPARIAN. LVMAPARIAN. Twitter. I'm there. Terminally online, I'm sorry.
Of course. You can find me at JOHN_MICHONSKI. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Unlimited Train Works.